Hey, welcome to the Razzle Dazzle Show, a podcast where we talk about our favorite video games and all things pop culture with an emphasis on our favorites. I'm your host, Jared, and our guest today is JP Karliak. During his near 2 decades in animation, JP has voiced such iconic characters as Morph in X-Men 97, Green Goblin in Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Boss Baby in both Netflix series, Wile E. Coyote, The Tin Man, Loki, and Willy Wonka. He also stars opposite of Rihanna as Gargamel in the new animated Smurfs movie, out now in theaters. On the interactive side, JP can be heard as the Joker in Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, Entropy in Crash Bandicoot titles, Junkbot in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Wolfgang in the Skylander series. Notable anime credits include Kozo Fuyutsuki in the Netflix dub of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Ryo Mibuchi in Kuroko's Basketball. JP is also the founder and president of Queer Vox, a nonprofit training academy and community for LGBTQIA+ voice talent that advocates for authentic and equitable casting opportunities. With voiceover pal Courtney Taylor, he co-founded Nerds Vote, a nonpartisan organization linking gamers, cosplayers, con-goers, and pop culture fans of all kinds to voter registration opportunities. JP was recommended by previous guest Kari Walgren. Please let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Razzle Dazzle Show, on TikTok at Razzle_Dazzle_Show, on Blue Sky at Raz-Show Pod, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Raz_Daz_Pod. And with all that being said,
it's Razzle Dazzle time.
Hello, JP. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm really well. How are you?
If I was doing any better, I'd have to hire somebody to help me enjoy it. Thank you for asking. A quick Kickstarter question I have for you. Do you do karaoke? And if you do, what is your go-to song?
Woof. Yes, I have many times done karaoke, and in the past, and it was mostly my 20s and maybe early 30s. So I will say that I frequently judged what my song was going to be by how many drinks I had. If I was completely sober, it would probably be like 90s alt rock, like Fuel or Better Than Ezra. If I had had maybe one or two, it might be like Bobby Darin, Beyond the Sea, or something swanky. And then once we get past like the second drink, then it's always Cher.
I love it. Oh man.
If I'm with friends, it's Love Shack.
Love Shack, baby. Oh, that's amazing. A follow-up to this, and it'll be brought back up later, I'm sure. But have you done Only You by The Platters by any chance?
No, I have not. I know the song,
right?
Yeah.
I asked that specifically because famously the Joker sings it in Arkham City, and we'll get to that.
Sure.
But before we get there, let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us, where did you grow up, and how would you describe the musical background of your childhood?
Yeah, I grew up in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, which is a little town right outside of Scranton, aka home of The Office.
Right.
And my musical upbringing, I mean, there was a lot of my parents were not artsy people, but they were musical people, I guess. I mean, my mom could play piano, but like neither of them would call themselves singers or anything, but
right.
They were always singing. Like, my mother frequently would come into the house singing, "Good morning, good morning." Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my dad was always singing some song and always butchering the lyrics. Like, even if it was Jingle Bells, it was always, I don't know if it was a brain thing or if it was just his way of being, eccentric, but he was just always butchering the lyrics. My musical taste, the first cassette tape I ever owned was Lionel Richie's Dancing on the Ceiling.
Wow.
And the first CD that I ever owned, well, I bought two, because my parents bought a big one of those big CD changers, and it came with a number of CDs, so I got to pick two. One was the Boys to Men second album.
Wow.
And also the maxi single of Meatloaf's "I Would Do Anything for Love."
Oh, I love this. So are you a big Motown fan?
Yes, no.
Yes,
I
no.
mean, it's like
Not specifically Motown.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of every genre.
Got it.
But I'm fans of specific things within it.
Ooh.
Like, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, I don't like country. I'm particular in the country that I like.
Right.
But I would never say I don't like it, or even like, you know, like heavy metal or, you know, gangster rap or anything. I can't patently say across the board like I don't like a genre, because there are songs I've heard within them that I'm like, oh, that's good.
Right.
You know?
Oh, I love that. I totally understand.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of just like my taste. It goes with, you know, music, movies, food. Like, you know, I'm never somebody that like will say, oh no, I'm not trying that. I will try it. I will
At least
always
once.
try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Especially
there's probably
food.
yeah, and just like there's probably something in every cuisine that I've been like, that is so good.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with music.
Understood. Did you play any instruments growing up?
Yeah, I played the piano. I started taking lessons fairly late, so I never got like crazy good or anything at it. You know, it's not. So I actually just treated myself to buy myself a keyboard like last Christmas.
Oh wow.
So that I could pull out my old piano books and try to like get back into it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's collecting dust. I need to I need to make it prioritize a little bit more. But yeah, I played piano, and then I was in high school band where I played keyboard percussion. So xylophone, glockenspiel, vibraphone, all of that stuff. Yeah.
What was the first band or musician that really got your attention when you were young?
So that's such an interesting. Well, I will say the first CD that I knew that I had to have was that, like, I asked my mom to go out and buy it for me. And I think I specifically had her go and buy it for me because A, I wasn't old enough, and B, I think it was parental advisory, actually, which thinking about it now is so like, really, it was Jagged Little Pill.
Okay.
Yeah. I was hooked on Alanis Morissette, and I needed to have that. And I love that album. That one's so good. I think of the albums that I have from the 90s, and there were so many. Oh my God. I still think that the 90s was just such a good decade for music, even though there's so many people that are like, are you kidding? It was disgusting. Like, no, it was solidly entertaining and good. Yeah, but I think Jagged Little Pill and Tragic Kingdom, No Doubt's first album, first made big label release. I think both of those albums are they're like one of the few albums that front to back there is not a single weak track. Like I can very pleasurably listen to it from the beginning to the end and not feel like, oh, and this is the one I don't like, I need to skip this. You know?
Understood. When was the last time you listened to that album? All the way through.
When was the last time I listened to Tragic Kingdom? Probably within the past couple of years.
Okay.
I mean, I've certainly listened to songs from it, but
right.
Well, you know, it's one of those things. I don't own any CDs.
Right.
Like, you know?
It's all digital.
Yeah. I mean, I used to carry around. I'd be that person that carried around like a giant like binder of CDs like in my car. And I was always and because I didn't have a parking space and would always park like a good distance from my apartment, I was always too lazy to take it in, and I got robbed twice and had to replace my entire CD collection. And the second time it was right around when the iPod was just becoming a thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I need to do this all over again. So yeah, I think I might have purchased like, you know, 3 essential CDs, and that was kind of it. But yeah, so, you know, with digital music, it really requires you to specifically seek out and want to listen to an album all the way through. It's not the default. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Right. Yeah, everything's so easily available all the time now and
it's so playlist based.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's so many artists that I love, but it's when I say I love them, it's because there's like 2 or 3 songs from across multiple albums they've had that I'm like, oh my God, those songs are so good. They're on every playlist I have. But if I listen to the fullness of those albums, maybe not. You know?
Understood. Well, this next question requires a bit of context, so please bear with me. I'm a producer and audio engineer at WGCU, NPR PBS public media radio station in Southwest Florida. We have this other show called 3 Song Stories where we tell people's biography through music. The guest comes in, they pick 3 songs that every time they listen to these songs, they immediately get transported back to a time and place that they have a significant story associated with that song. I want to ask you, off the top of your head, do you have one song story you are willing to share?
Yes. So my husband and I got married, oh my God, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Time flies. And every detail of our wedding was really thought out and considered and and compromised and all of that. Although the songs that we each individually chose to walk down the aisle to were very much our own choosing. He walked down to a Judy Garland song, he's a musical theater Broadway guy. That's very him. But there's this movie, The Skeleton Twins, with Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader. And it's such a sweet movie. It's a very, very cute movie. But there's one part, they play siblings. And there's one part where she's really depressed and he cheers her up by lip syncing to Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene in particular was always such a pick-me-up scene. And I happened to be, while thinking about, the music for the day, I happened to watch that scene, and I actually I don't think I ever stopped to listen to the lyrics of Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, because it's so cheesy and
poppy.
And just but I actually stopped to listen to it, and it just I actually got teary-eyed just listening to it, because so much of it just seemed to apply. So I found a cover of the song that is much slower. It's string backed. It's a single female vocalist. It's really sweet. It's actually very gorgeous. It has a very much of a wedding feel to it. So that's what I came down the aisle to. And just to, I've loved when I've gone to weddings in the past, and there's always this little secret that one person in the couple, throughout all of the planning and all of the collaboration and all the other people, there was one little secret that person just kept to just surprise them, in the moment. So I get halfway down the aisle, and my husband, when he was doing Broadway, he did a production of this musical Big River that was done by this company called Deaf West, which they produce musicals where half the cast is deaf. Wow. And they're signing while there are other people singing for them. And it's stunning. They do beautiful, beautiful work. And he was in Big River, which is the tale of Huckleberry Finn. And he learned sign language. So sign language has always been just a very intimate and loved part of him. It's just he's always known it. I didn't know it, but I did, secretly call up a friend of his from the original cast and asked them to teach me how to sign one lyric of Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, and they did. And so I did it on the aisle, and he's like, "Buh," and everybody's like, "Buh."
Wow, that is beautiful. Oh man, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
How does that song fit into your life today, 2.5 years later?
Well, I mean, not to get political or anything, but as a queer couple who's just been through this week, nothing's going to stop us now. I hope it's a prediction and it's not sarcasm, I guess. We got a lot to get through for a minute now. But I will say, just in the past few days of just grappling with how we're feeling, what this means for us, what this means for our families, both blood and chosen, and all of that. We always come together as a couple. We always recognize when the other person's in trouble, when the other person is struggling, when the other person needs a cheerleader or a coach or just an ear. Like, we're very mindful of that, and this week was no exception. So, I think nothing's going to stop us now. I think, at least in this moment, it still very, very much rings true.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. To shift a little bit, did you have any video game consoles growing up in your household?
I was a Nintendo exclusive.
Love
kid.
it.
And I'm a Nintendo exclusive kid. I owned a regular NES. I owned a Super NES. I was never allowed to have a portable one because my mother said, I need to be able to pull you away from this thing sometime. So I never owned a Game Boy. But I did, and then I didn't have one for several years. And then I did buy a Switch, and I also bought like the NES and SNES classic things, the little mini ones you got. Yeah. And I'm one of the ones that like hacked it, so it doesn't just have 20 games; it has like 240.
Oh my god, the whole catalog.
Yes, but Nintendo obsessed. I love Nintendo.
Oh, I love that. Do you remember the first game you've played by any chance?
I mean, it was probably Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. / Duck Hunt, probably.
Yeah. We did buy that system, and thus the addiction began. But I'm trying to think for a second. Like, there must have been some game that I played. I'm just old enough that, I probably played an Atari game before that, but I didn't own one.
Right. It wasn't yours.
Yeah, no.
Gotcha. And what kind of shows were you watching growing up? I'm sure X-Men, BTAS, I assume.
No, actually. Oh. I was a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe kid. That's the first show I remember watching. I was pretty young when it came out. I was probably like 3 or 4. And yeah, I was obsessed with that show. And also like Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the entire Disney afternoon, Yeah. And then as I got older, I became a huge Power Rangers nerd. Like, yeah.
Understood. I'm really happy we got to lay the foreground of what your bedroom or living room was kind of like the vibe was, with your classic Nintendo consoles, watching He-Man, with your Lionel Richie CD. Yeah, man. So I want to shift.
It's definitely a vibe.
Definitely. I want to shift into your career now, and I want to ask, what was the moment that kind of clicked in your head that like you wanted to pursue voice acting, or even if that was the first thing, like how did that journey start?
I mean, I always was a funny voice kid, and I loved cartoons. I loved, all the shows I've mentioned, plus Looney Tunes and Batman the Animated Series and Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and all of that stuff. I loved cartoons, and I think when I got old enough to understand the concept of that these are not real things, these are drawings that are voiced by human beings, I saw Aladdin, and I remember I knew who Robin Williams was, and I loved what he did, and I just was under the assumption that this can't be a real job. This has to be a perk of being rich and famous in Hollywood. So my trajectory at that point, in my young, naive brain was, okay, I'm going to become rich and famous in Hollywood like Robin Williams, and then they will let me do voiceover. And it really wasn't until college that I had some professors that were like, or, you could just get an agent and audition for stuff. But it was always, even though I didn't necessarily go to college specifically with the goal of I'm going to be a voice actor, it was just to be in theater and TV and all of that. I think the underlying goal of it the whole time was I want to do cartoons. I just felt that I had to be all sorts of other things in order to get that work.
Right. Yeah. And you eventually made it with, over 2 decades worth of voiceover roles, voiceover credits. You voiced key characters or iconic characters such as the Green Goblin, Loki, now the Boss Baby, Morph, right? Joker. I will say that you are our first Joker on the show, but our second Green Goblin.
Oh.
Yeah, our first Green Goblin on the show, which is probably the definitive version, if you want to argue, Neil Ross from Spider-Man the Animated Series. So,
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Willem Dafoe.
I wish.
Yeah, I was going to say, whoa, okay. We get some name dropping here. No, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
Love
thank
that.
you. But not to take away from your work, of course, I want to ask, you've voiced these iconic characters. When you approach these well-known roles, how do you balance putting your own spin on them while respecting what fans love about these characters that are already pre-established?
Yeah, it's a balance, and a lot of it is set right from the audition, because whenever you're doing a legacy character, there's usually some specific instructions as to we want this to be an exact match, or we want this to be a feel-alike. Or we're not married to the sound of the original voice, just put your own spin on it, and then everything in between. So really, it's been about, like when I played Wile E. Coyote.
Right.
Most people think Wile E. Coyote, and they think of him just holding up signs that say "yikes," and that's it. Like there's no dialogue. He only spoke in, I think, 6 Looney Tunes shorts. So while they wanted this to be an homage to what Mel Blanc originally did, it wasn't as important as Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck to be identical to the original. So I got to play around with it and make it a little more my own. Boss Baby, they wanted an exact match. And funnily enough, it ended up that I was the 3rd choice for Boss Baby.
Wow.
The first was Alec Baldwin, but he ended up being busy, so he couldn't do the series. And then they cast somebody else who did an exact match, like a flawless match of the character, of the voice, but wasn't necessarily delivering the snap of the sense of humor that they were really looking for. And they worked on it, and it just didn't match up. And that happens sometimes. We've all lost gigs. So yeah, then they came to me, and I actually I don't fault them for that, because I actually think that I don't do a terribly great Alec Baldwin. I think I do an excellent Will Arnett doing Alec Baldwin. And it's good enough. It works. It works for the character. It's a work for the character nonetheless. So yeah, but for the first several episodes, we were really just dialing into trying to get it as close to Alec as humanly possible. But after the first season that was so well received and everybody was enjoying it, there was a little more wiggle room. It's not like I changed his voice dramatically, but it wasn't so precious about imitating somebody. It was more about just like letting the character breathe and live.
Right.
So I think by the time we got to the end of our 6th season, I think it still sounds the same. It's kind of like if you go back and you listen to The Simpsons from like season 1 versus how they sound now.
Right.
It's wildly different. It's crazy that, but once they got comfy in the characters and sat in it for a bit, like, they finally, found the breadth and depth of all the vocal gymnastics they could do with it. So Homer is so much different than he used to be.
Right. Continuing on with the legacy characters, I've teased X-Men 99 earlier, but of course, famously, you are now Morph from X-Men 97, a character that has a deep connection to fans and has a very interesting story to tell. Now, with a complicated story in the original run, you really got to bring way more out of this character than ever before. What are some unique aspects were you looking forward to bringing out of this version of Morph?
Well, a couple things. The original series was a lot of trauma for our poor Morph.
Yeah.
He died, and then he was resurrected by an evil scientist who mind controlled him into kidnapping his friends, and then he was unmind controlled, but then had a lot of PTSD and residual trauma from that whole experience, and blah 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 blah. It wasn't exactly like laugh a minute. So but Morph showed up at the very end of that previous series and had rejoined the team. And so now, this being a direct continuation, Morph's back and part of the team again, and not necessarily going through the dramatics of the trauma, even though it's still very much present in his life. So for the first time, we really get to see Morph just sort of finding his way in the team and finding his way of acceptance and getting comfortable and and still trying to overcome those demons. It's a very relatable experience. Morph has also been, this time around, they identified Morph as being a non-binary character. And I think what I was as a genderqueer person myself, I think I was excited to explore a character finding their place in the world, finding their place in their friend group, and also finding their gender in the 90s. I'm like, well, great. I'm just playing myself now. So it was so freeing and exploratory and really wonderful. But I think what I love so much about this character has so much to do with the behind the scenes and the people who worked on it. The character is authentic, not because we say, oh, well, Morph's non-binary, therefore. It's, we never say it in the show. Never. Right. There is one instance, I think, where Rogue is talking about Morph while he's there and refers to him as they. And his Morph's pronouns are he, they. So, it's the only hint that that's the truth. But it resonates, and it resonates so profoundly because of the queer talent that was involved in creating this character, the animators, the writers, myself, there's all sorts of subtle little nuance of reality and humanity that's baked into them that feels real without having to do a very special non-binary episode.
Right.
It just resonates in the same way that going to see something like Black Panther or the first Wonder Woman movie where, there's nothing is explicitly said, like, look at us living the authentic Black experience.
Right.
It is, you just feel it. Like, whether you're a part of the community or not, you just feel like that level of, I felt it when I went to see Moana. Like, it's Disneyfied. It's not like a perfect representation, but there's so much that's baked into the music and the artistry and you just feel like this isn't just a whole troop of white men that were just in a room making stuff up. Like, this is
Polynesian infused.
Yeah, and I think that's where Morph comes in. Is there's an infusion, as you said, of this queerness that we don't need to be ultra overt about it.
Right.
Even though, and there's nothing wrong with being overt about it. We sure could. I look forward to an episode where Morph and Iceman get to make out, but we'll see. But for now, I just love that we're able to focus on Morph being a hero and Morph being funny and Morph being part of a team than making it all about, his queerness.
Right. Yeah. I totally understand, and I love that there are characters and there are plenty of shows that handle an individual who is queer in any way in a respectable term, I guess. I'm also trying to find the respectable terms myself so I don't say anything upsetting.
All good.
Another example that comes to mind is in Voltron Legendary Defender. Shiro, the guy who pilots the Black Lion, one of the main characters, one of the leaders of Voltron, just so happens to be gay. And we don't find that out till like late in the show, but that's never been made to be a defining characteristic of this character. It's just, this is an amazing hero, this is an amazing, well-written character, and it's also great that he is LGBT, And in turn with Morph, there not being an episode where it's just, hey, look, everybody, this is Morph, and he is queer. Whoa, isn't that cool? Again, nothing wrong with that, but because it's just always there, and it's not supposed to be the main focus of this character. This is not why this person is important in this ragtag group of heroes. He has more to add. That's what's also important and cool. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. And I think Morph using humor to push through trauma.
Right.
Morph having complicated feelings with Wolverine, and teasing his friend while also perhaps harboring feelings for him. These are they're not heavy-handed things that we put in the show, but they're there, and to any audience member, queer or not, you pick up on it, and it helps to resonate. Like, oh, I understand this person and I understand this as a queer person.
Yes.
Without having to do, the very special episode.
Right. And I'm glad we're already talking about this, and I want to turn and talk about Queer Vox. You are the founder and president of it. What made you decide to start this company?
So Queer Vox is a nonprofit academy and community for LGBTQIA plus voice actors. And I started it during the pandemic while in conversation with some casting friends, where we were simultaneously celebrating the rise of queer characters in animation and video games, but also bemoaning the fact that rarely were they authentically cast. And the common refrain was, well, we just don't know where to find these actors. And I'm like, well, I know they're out there. I know they exist. So I just started a class. It was just a single class for queer people with no financial strings to it. If you could pay, great, pay what you can. Just to get them educated. And what I found is that actually there's a lot of queer voice actors who are trained, but they just haven't been given access to the mainstream animation or video game or, commercial voiceover opportunities.
Interesting, yeah.
They're mostly working in like smaller non-union spaces.
Right.
And even then, there's just a lot of prejudice about what they can or can't do, or breakdowns. This is the big one that we always go after is, a breakdown, a casting breakdown that might say, looking for somebody with a non-binary sound, which is like, well, what the heck does that mean? Like, it sort of equates like, oh, you're non-binary, so therefore it means you are the Borg from Star Trek and you talk like this. I am non-binary. Like, no,
right.
I know non-binary people who sound like all manner of different things because it has nothing to do with the sound of your voice. So, the organization has grown into becoming a training academy, but also a talent directory and showcase opportunity for actors that are ready to break into, mainstream areas of the business, as well as an industry-facing educational tool to help studios and casting and executives and writers, and everybody in production to understand why authentic casting is important, but furthermore, on how to do it and how to do it right. And like we were talking about with Morph, or, any of those great movies where that authenticity crackles,
right?
How it's not just about bringing that actor in, it's also about, having a writer or having a consultant or having other people in the production space that bakes in that authenticity so it doesn't feel like just a dart you threw at the wall.
Right. What changes have you seen regarding the LGBTQIA plus representation in the voice acting world since you started Queer Vox? Have you seen improvement, and what do you hope to be improved further?
It's a tricky question this week. What have I seen? Yes, I have seen improvement. I think we've had several of our members, get into major roles and get agents and, be auditioning regularly. And we've also just seen people just level up their voiceover work, because not everybody is going to, break into the big stuff.
Right.
But we're giving them the resources to be able to be like, look, I don't live in LA or New York. Like, I'm in a small town. I have a local market. I'd love to be able to audition for those commercials or find opportunities online I can do, and just helping them, giving them the tools and the resources to be able to pursue that. That's a win. More casting directors who are sending out breakdowns and that are culturally sound and are sensitive to the needs of queer actors. I think where we struggle, or the continuing struggle, is getting not just casting directors, because casting directors are, they're not the top of the food chain. There's many bosses and supervisors that are over them, telling them what to do. So it's not just about them. But getting the industry as a whole to divorce the idea of like what a person's gender identity is versus what their voice is supposed to sound like and what they can do with that voice.
Right.
Because as an example, we have, when a trans person undergoes hormone replacement therapy, if they choose to do so, if you take testosterone inherently thickens your vocal cords and lowers your voice. It's a chemical process that just happens. But if you're a trans woman and you're taking estrogen, it does nothing to your vocal cords. So the lightness or highness or feminization of their voices has nothing to do with any anything they've taken, medications. It has entirely to do with training and work they've done, and they have the full access to their quote unquote male range as well, octaves of access sometimes, and they can play. Years ago, I met this trans woman who was an engineer. This was when I worked in event planning, and she was some rocket scientist or something. Actually, I think she worked for the military, a trans military rocket scientist, which I live for. I was chatting with this woman, and she found out that I was doing voiceover, and this is the beginning of my career, so I'd maybe done like one or two little things. And she was telling me about how she would read fairy tales to her children, and how she could do all the voices. And she proceeded to do some snippets of all the voices for me, and I was just gobsmacked at her range. It was crazy. She was doing the wizard, the princess, the villain, the prince, everybody, like the whole thing. And I think rather than seeing people as like an opportunity of like, oh my God, we could bring you in for so many things. This is great. You have such range and talent. Instead, it's just like, yeah, but are people going to buy it? Even though nobody's seeing your face.
Right.
So, it's just indicative of the hangups that we as a society have that are gender related. They're so ingrained and deep baked about what people are capable of and what people aren't capable of. So I'm hoping that we can make moves to overcome that. And to be honest, I think in the coming years, like some of this is really going to be about providing our members resources for safety as well. It's not everybody lives in, the major metro areas that are super progressive and, where they are safe. So, finding that way, it's not, our main mission isn't like a, health and wellness resource organization. There are plenty of places that do that far better than we could, but at least being able to plug people in to that type of stuff.
Yeah, of course. And that's, important work in itself. Clearly, as someone who has been in this industry for so long and has done so many great things, it only makes sense. It's only natural that you would want to help other people who can't have the resources provided or at least helped with. And that's amazing. Clearly, this resonates with you. Clearly, this is a big deal, and I'm very happy to see that there are people like you willing to go the extra mile, take the extra steps to do this. My partner is LGBT plus, and seeing how there is people and there is a place for my partner to even like also find like-minded people who share a lot of things that, or have gone through a lot of things that they've gone through, people to relate, right? Seeing that there are people out there who are making big changes and trying to do their best to help other people who can't help themselves to do what they want to do. I'm a little bit rambling, I'm sorry, but it's extremely important, and I don't see enough of that. And I'm really glad to be talking to you, and I'm really happy that you are taking this initiative and doing this for the people who can't. So thank you on behalf of everyone who cares.
Yeah, I think it's so key on not only for the safety of my members,
right?
It is. That is a paramount concern. But I think the secondary part of it is that in thinking about communicating to people, why is a queer voiceover organization important right now?
Right.
Cartoons and video games, who cares? And the truth of the matter is I always come back to the same story, that my mother understood me better as a queer human being because she watched Modern Family. And I truly believe that in addition to the animation and video games and audiobooks and commercials and whatever we produce that has queer people and queer characters and has our visibility, not only does it make our community itself feel safe and seen, but it also helps other people to understand us better. That's why there's book banning. That's why there's all the censorship, because the people who do not want queer equality understand that art and media, when it shows the human experience of somebody, you get to know them better, you have compassion for them, you see them as another person, and you're less likely to want to take their rights away.
Right. Of course.
So yeah, queer cartoons are super important.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. She-Ra, Princess of Power, that's another great show that like just is infused with that type of energy. And again, not like super in your face about it. It's just it's natural and it's
Yeah.
and it's great and it's an amazing, great quality show. Again, another DreamWorks masterpiece, and it is phenomenal. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for talking about this here on the show and with me. And this this also helps teach me. This is also a reason why I love the thing I do and what I try to do here with this show. Me talking to you about these type of topics and talking to other people about plenty of other things helps me understand and learn more and try to be more educated. And I hope that our listeners gets to learn more and feels the same too. So I really do appreciate that.
I mean, it's all a learning experience. I mean, I will say selfishly, part of the reason I started Queer Vox was because, like a lot of people during the pandemic who had a moment to breathe, look in the mirror, and understand themselves a little better, that's when I, knew that I was genderqueer and started to try to understand that. And I said to my husband, I'm like, first of all, I'm genderqueer. Second of all, we don't have any trans friends. And third of all, I think I need those people around me to better understand who I am. So rather than just like running up to people in the street and being like, will you be my friend? Like, I was like, how about, and this is something I learned from, the Black Lives Matter movement, is if you want to be educated by a community, you can't just ask for it. You have to offer something. You have to be willing to give back to the community that you're expecting to learn from. And even though it's my community, I felt it was important to be like, okay, I'm going to do something for this community, and I hope, and I mean, the results have wildly exceeded my expectations, but my hope was that I would learn more about myself, and I absolutely have.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. Again, thank you so much for having this type of conversation here and with me. I actually really do appreciate this and all the work that you do. So thank you. To move on a little bit here, I do want to take some time and talk about your role as the Joker in Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Obviously, this is in the same in-game universe as the Arkham games, featuring Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and the Joker. Talk about legacy characters, right? And stepping into not necessarily the exact same shoes, but similar roles. Your Joker is of an Elseworlds Joker. And there are a lot of differences, but yet there needs to be a lot of similar qualities to make this version of the Joker a Joker. I want to ask what aspects of the personality of this Joker were you really trying to exude that makes it different, but the same, but still you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, entirely. Well, I think you kind of hit it. I think a lot of it was his newness. He's a younger Joker than the in the universe recently passed Mark Hamill version of who had been died about what was it? It was that mutation thing that killed him, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, so he's a younger Joker who hasn't been doing it for very long in his universe. And he comes into this world where there's this reputation of this Titan Joker that existed, who was badass and horrible and, just the worst or the best, depending upon how you look at it, And so he's almost looking at this as sort of like what can I learn from this guy and his record? Do I want to follow in this? Does his brand of villainy freak me out a little bit? I don't think my Joker is quite as nuts as like, by which I mean psychotic, as he is psychotic, but not quite as much as like the Mark Hamill one, or quite as evil. He's a little more mirthful and sort of just like a cheerful, mischievous dandy. So, I think there's sort of looking at it be like, there are things that are attractive about becoming like him. There are things that are really scary about becoming like him. So I think he's sort of navigating that. And I think as an actor, what was so fun, it was sort of meta in a way, I'm coming into the Joker verse of there being so many iconic Joker performances. I'm coming into a game where I'm actually following up one of the most iconic Jokers ever.
Yeah.
Certainly the most iconic voiceover Joker ever. And there's sort of an imposter syndrome of like, what am I doing here, and what can I do that's there's all of that, and it feels like me and my Joker are going through it at the same time.
Right.
So I think for me, the funny thing is that whenever I've played any legacy character where they're like, we want it to be an homage to a particular version of the Joker, but we also do not want to sound alike, and we don't want it to be that person. My usual go-to is to just put in a little bit more me. When I played Willy Wonka, they wanted it to be close enough to Gene Wilder without getting sued. So I just made it a little more me, pulled it back away from somebody else. And I think with this, it was just a little bit me being a lunatic psychopath,
right,
while inserting some references here and there. As you said, you've got to have certain touchstones and everything that are like, oh, this is the Joker, right, or a Joker. So taking some of my laughter cues from the way Mark would do it, or the way Heath would do it, or even the way that like John DiMaggio would do it, who's iconic in his own way at doing the Joker, just finding those little things. But yeah, I was really appreciative that I wasn't coming in being like, all right, you are now doing the version of the Joker that Mark Hamill did.
Right. Match this. No.
Security.
Understood. And yeah, this isn't the only project that had that you've been in that's had Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy within the same universe. You were also in Batman: The Killing Joke as Reese, which is just a cool tidbit. But as Joker in Suicide Squad, I'm sure it was a lot of fun recording unique voice lines with Tara as her Harley Quinn and stuff, and just getting to meet these other amazing people that have been in this universe, this role for so long.
Oh, I'm gonna burst your bubble. We recorded all individually.
Oh, right. You're right.
Yeah, never met anybody, but I mean, I know Tara. We've met before. She's great. So yeah. I think what was fun was, especially in the cinematics, every once in a while they would bring some clips in and be like, okay, we need to just insert a line. Can you punch in? I'm like, wait, can I watch it? And they're like, oh yeah. And I'd be like, oh, this is fun, Yeah. And I feel bad because that game got such a bad rap. And I have nothing to do with gameplay or any of the mechanics of the game. They are what they are. People try their best. A lot of people worked really hard on it. I only worked with the writers. And I think what the writers were doing was, I was laughing so much. There was just so much gold. It was so fun and funny, and I know that so much love of that universe was put into that game. So I feel so bad that it really didn't measure up to what the audience wanted. But it was fun. It was really, really fun.
Yeah. And as a player of the game, I got it as soon as it came out. I'm a huge Arkham fan, huge Kevin Conroy fan. And I mainly played it just to hear more Kevin. I sadly got hooked on Kevin late, after he passed. I didn't really gravitate towards his Batman and the animated series and Arkham until after. So I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have, anyways, big fan of all that. And I really wanted to play just because at the time, and I guess now relative to whenever this recording comes out, this game will have or has had one of the last lines ever spoken by Kevin. So it was a really surreal moment to be playing this. And as soon as I got it, day one, I didn't stop playing it until I got to the credits, and I was having a lot of fun playing it. Yeah, it's different than the other Arkham games, but it's got to have its own identity. It is the Suicide Squad. It is not Batman Arkham, right. Suicide, whatever. Yeah. But regardless of all that, your performance as this Joker, and again, big asterisks on, or big emphasis on, this is another different Joker, everybody. This isn't Mark Hamill. That one's dead. This new, younger Joker, a lot of the lines are like you said, it is hilarious, and I thought your performance was spectacular and spot on. There's a lot of whimsy, maniacal type of little raunchy to it, raunchiness to it.
Oh yeah.
It was it was a lot of fun, and of course that I think it matches with the gameplay for the character as well. So kudos to you, amazing job.
I appreciate it.
No
It was really a great time to make.
Are there any characters that you've done that you wish got more attention but hasn't?
I know there's a bunch, but the one thing that comes to mind, and this, once again, this is the tricky thing about video games. Like, they can be in development for years, and then the thing comes out, and it could be a huge success or a dud. And you never know. And it doesn't mean that it was good or bad. It just sometimes means by the time it hit the market, the audience loved it or didn't.
Right.
A while ago, I was part of a MMORPG. It was in development for a while, and I think they only ever got to beta. I don't think they even ever released it. It was called Dawn Gate.
Mm-hmm.
And I played 4, 5? I played a bunch of maybe 4. I think I played like 4 characters in the game. And those recording experiences were so much fun. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I flew up to San Francisco for all of them. And just a great production team. The writing was beautiful. The storylines were just stunning. And I got to do just some incredible voice work and acting and, in these beautiful, rich cutscenes and clips and everything. And it just never took off. But I think I still have them. I think I still have them on my website. If I don't, they're on my YouTube or something like that. But I still have some clips of them because I'm just so proud of it. It was just such stunning work that just never really got seen.
Aw, that's too bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is now time to get into the speed round where I'm going to ask you a bunch of silly, random questions, and we're going to see how you do. You ready?
All right.
All right. If you were the final boss in a video game, what would your title be?
The Giggler.
The Giggler. And what would your boss theme music be? And you can choose any song from anywhere.
Okay, I just need to preface this. There are these hilarious animations that I watch on YouTube that basically send up a lot of video games where it's basically somebody speed running through something and just crashing through walls. It's so chaotic.
Is it Terminal Montage?
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be.
Animated and like...
So they did one for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep.
And Ganon is Suavemente.
Yes!
I live. I was dying. I especially was because like Matt Mercer, who I know is the voice of Ganon in the game, and to see him portrayed like that, I lost my crap. It was so funny.
It would be
so in homage to that, my boss music would be the Miami piano remix of Spice Girls' Spice Up Your Life.
I love that even more because I'm from Miami, so hell yeah. It would be hilarious to see Matthew Mercer like dancing to Suavemente.
I'm gonna tell him. I'm like, we need a fundraiser, and this is what it's gonna take.
Yes. I love this. If you were a superhero, what would your name be? Follow up, what powers would you have?
What would my name be? Well, I mean, I've been, as I mentioned before, I'm a Power Rangers fan. And since I was a kid, I had this nasty little habit of if I loved a show a lot, I would try to write myself into it. And I wrote a version of the Power Rangers where my character was the son of 2 of the main villains, if you know the lore at all, Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed. And so his name was Rizzo Rejecto. And he remains, even though the show has long moved on from that plot line, he remains my avatar. He is my spirit person. So like, yeah, so him. And my powers, I really think the best superpower would be teleportation.
Yeah.
Like, I love to travel, but I'm not thrilled about like the long air travel stuff and all the pollution and everything that goes with it. So yeah, teleportation. Woo!
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you can live in the world of your favorite childhood show, movie, or video game, which one would it be and why?
Addams Family Values.
Wow. Great.
I just have a dark sense of humor, and to be around people who like are really into it is like, yeah.
And which character from your childhood favorite show, movie, or game would you most like to have as a friend in real life?
Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, man.
Because Wednesday's going to protect you. Like if she really considers you a friend, then she will like their bodies will never be found if she's your friend. But if you're just acquaintances, maybe be careful because she might consider you a collateral damage.
Yeah, that's a great answer. If your current favorite show or movie were to be adapted into a musical, what genre of music would you envision for it?
Let's see. I've always wanted. This kind of circles back to the beginning. I've always believed that there should be a No Doubt jukebox musical, like especially like just taking No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom and a couple of songs from other things would be great as a musical. And that musical, the plot of it would be basically a horror movie, like a teen high school horror movie.
Oh my God. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I haven't developed it yet, so if somebody wants to steal it, go for it.
If you could attend any fictional event, for example, the Ewok celebration in Return of the Jedi, which one would it be and why?
Actually, you're not far off. Is that my answer? Is that my answer? Yeah, no, that's my answer. I think it would be super fun to be at the end of Return of the Jedi, but I'm more of a city boy. I'm less of a country boy.
So like in Coruscant?
Yeah, I'd be on Coruscant watching the statue fall down.
Yeah.
Like, yeah! That'd be fun.
That's great.
Or Naboo, because let's be honest, Naboo is basically Tuscany. So
yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, beautiful place to be, man.
Yeah.
If you can have a cameo appearance in any movie or show, which one would it be, and what role would you play?
The upcoming untitled live-action X-Men movie, I think.
And you can be anybody if you were Morph. Hint,
Right?
hint.
Exactly. I could be like Bruce Campbell, just showing up in every Sam Raimi movie, like just whatever.
Oh man, what activities or pursuits most make you lose track of time?
Doom scrolling on Instagram.
That's so real, man.
It's so real. Or even not just doom scrolling, just regular scrolling.
Yeah.
Video games for sure. Me and my Switch are good pals. This is so boring. Accounting. Like I find one of the most relaxing things to do. I think I enjoy spreadsheets this way. Is just doing the books. Like just checking the finances, inputting. Making sure that everything's in its right place, bills are paid, all of that. It's very meditative. And I can, be like, oh crap, that was 3 hours,
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
What would your 14-year-old self think of who you are today?
I think he'd need a minute. No, I don't know if my 14-year-old self could have comprehended how much better, how successful, how neurotic, how many anxiety-inducing things that are off the wall have happened. I think to me, it's a little hyperbolic, but it's almost like Bill and Ted, like bringing Mozart to the future or something like that, and being like, "What do you think?" Like, well, it's a little bit of a brain fry, but in a great way. I think once my 14-year-old self was able to calm down, I think they'd be really, really happy.
Awesome. Well, it is now time for you to recommend 3 people that you'll share this episode with when it comes out, and that you think they'll be a good guest on the show. If you think they'll say yes, and you can potentially help me get them on the show.
I volunteer as tribute. AJ Locasio, Holly Chow, and Isaac Robinson Smith.
Okay.
They're gonna hate me. But yeah, those are my 3.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. And yeah, let's see what we can do to get them on the show. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, thank you. This actually was really a lovely interview, and I already saw my therapist today, but this just felt like another session. So thank you.
That's like the best thing you can tell a journalist / interviewer. So no, thank you so much for taking the time being on the show and talking about all the things that like make you or that are a part of you. I really feel like we had like a pretty deep and powerful conversation, as well as there's a lot of levity and finding out who you are through the lens of your favorite things of pop culture. So thank you so much for your time, JP. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm just so happy that I got to meet you and talk with you.
Thank you. So appreciate it.
All right, that's all the time we have for today, guys. If you want to hear more from JP, be sure to follow him on all his socials. Check out his website at jpkarliak.com, and also check out Queer Vox and Nerds Vote. Links to everything will be in the description down below. Be sure to let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Razzle Dazzle Show, on TikTok at Razzle_Dazzle_Show, on Blue Sky at RazDaz Show Pod, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Raz_Daz_Pod. Be sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one.
Next time on The Razzle Dazzle Show. Will Pike ever see poultry the same again after this harrowing encounter? Will Rainy the Dwarf manage to get approved for a loan for his new bakery business? And will the Elven Guard get fired for his gross negligence? Find out next time on The Delta Quest.